My name is Billy Reynolds, and I'm an alcoholic and a heroin addict. And I'm going to tell you how I became a Christian and how Jesus Christ came into my life. I grew up back east, and my family moved to California when I was 17, right here in San Clemente, California. And I got into the drugs really quick, selling weed as a younger kid, 12, 13, 14 years old, and then got in here and got into the bigger stuff. And at that time, I started doing some like home invasions kind of stuff. Started a little gang in Laguna Niguel, and the name of our gang was 7-Eleven gang, and I recruited a few other guys from the neighborhood. And when I was 18 years old, I met these other people that was into cocaine and speed and had mounts of it, and I was able to show my loyalty to them and started selling drugs for them. In that process, I ended up meeting an undercover cop, ended up being a CI for the BEN, Bureau of Narcotics Enforcement. And at that time, I started to set up a bigger drug deal, $40,000, a kilo of cocaine, and 5 pounds of speed. We were doing the drug deal in a hotel in Newport Beach. When I was inside the hotel, and this is really important, that we tried to move the deal outside in the parking lot for no one can get advantage of it from being in the hotel. And when I was walking through this lot, I slowed down, and it was so quiet and eerie. You can hear a pin drop when I was walking into the hotel room, and I saw this lady. No other cars were around, and at the time I saw this lady, and my eyes met with hers in her rearview mirror. And I stood there for about 15, 20 seconds just looking at her, my eyes meeting her eyes, just like this. And at the time, she took some lipstick, put it on, never thought about it again. I go inside the hotel room, and we're getting ready to do the drug deal, and a partner of mine says, let's get naked. Everybody's going to get naked to see if there's any wires. As soon as we said that, I looked at the corner of my eye, and I see the hotel adjoining door lock starting to turn. And I said, somebody's coming in the door. The cops end up being cops, not at the time, not knowing they were cops. They were undercover cops, Bureau of Narcotics Enforcement. They kept saying, you can take it, you can take it, you can take it. I thought they were coming in to rob us, to get us our job. So I took out and pulled out a .45, racked around and pulled the trigger. Racked around and pulled the trigger again at another one. By that time, through the grace of God, not knowing that at all at the time, the gun misfired. I wasn't able to fire the gun. At that time, I turned around and went to the front door. Opened up the front door, and there was federal agents all over the place. Get on the ground, get on the ground, get on the ground. When I was on the ground, handcuffed, laying on my belly, the same lady that I seen in that parking lot came up to me, and she says, you asshole, you made us, you made us. She was stepping on my arms, and next thing I know that I'm going into the county jail on a conspiracy to commit a drug deal. But over the next course of a few weeks, I started getting enhanced. Conspiracy to commit murder, premeditated attempted murder on federal officers, ended up getting 22 charges at total. By that time, it looked like I was going to get a life sentence, 3 life sentences, because the conspiracy to commit murder, and I fought it for 37 months in Orange County Jail. State of California sentenced me to 38 years, 38 months. I'm 20 years old. 38 years, 8 months. I'm 20 years old. Next thing you know it, I'm in San Quentin. I go from San Quentin to Tracy to all these other prisons, every other little Folsom, Lancaster, every single level 4 prison in the California state prison system I've been to. I got 17 years in. I'm still running drugs. I'm still making wine, still making whiskey, still doing corrupt stuff. And I was trying to do a drug deal on the phone. I'm on the phone, and I got 17 years in the prison system already, and I'm on the phone. I'm almost got this drug deal completely done. And this kid comes in, and he says, it's my phone call. And I said, wait a minute, I'm almost done. He asked me that 3 times. And if you were in that system before, you know that you only get 15 minutes. And I almost had this thing done. By that time, he came over and he hung up the phone. My first instinct was to do is turn around and punch him in the face. Knocked him down on the ground. Nothing I can do about it, but just jump on him. Now, you got a white boy who just knocked a Mexican kid in the face. He has to show face because that's the politics, so he goes to the shot caller and asks him if he can have permission to stab me. The shot caller is my neighbor who I'm running in drugs for. If I can bring in his drugs, which we've been doing, a friend of mine's bringing it in for him, a mule, and I'm getting an ounce of heroin for $450, and bringing in his and getting a third of that, so I'm getting a chunk of money. So he's my friend because we're both in there still doing drugs. But he has to give this kid permission because he came and asked, because if he doesn't, he's a shot caller on the yard. Mexicans look at him like, hey, you're not handling business, you're taking drugs over our race, that's such and such, such. That's just politics of being in prison. So he says, yes, I'll give you permission, but you go by yourself. So the shot caller, who was my neighbor, as I said, comes and tells me, hey, the kid asked for permission. I had to give it to him, but I told him he has to come by himself. Next day on the yard, watch yourself. So next day on the yard, it's yard goes out at 9 o'clock in the morning, comes back in, yard recall at 11 o'clock. So if you've been on a yard before, you know it's almost like a baseball field. You can walk around, got different things on there. So from the moment I went out on that yard, as soon as I saw him come out of that building, my eyes locked on him. Wherever he went, I went the opposite way. Now it's already 10:30, quarter of 20 of 11. He has to do something because he already asked for permission, and if he doesn't, he's got a knife on him because he had to use one of the Mexican race knife to try to make a move on me. So, and if he didn't do that right now, they're going to have to hide the knife. Probably on lunchtime when they go out there with the metal detectors, he will lose that knife, and he'll probably get stabbed himself for not taking care of business. So about 20 of 11, he's getting close, and he gets maybe about 6 feet away from me. He says, can I talk to you? I said, no, you can talk to me from right there. He says, no, let me talk to you. I said, are you crazy? What do you think I'm nuts? You got a knife? He said, I don't have a knife. He says, let's go in the cell and deal with this. This kid is like 21, 22 years old. I already got 17 years in a prison cell from doing different things over the years and got game to that kind of thing. If I go in a cell with this kid, I'm going to kill him. He does not have a clue. That's the politics. That's the realness of it. I am going to kill him if I go in a cell with him with a knife. He doesn't know that. So I said, you know what, you little punk, make your move. And he said, oh, I'm a punk. And he tried to stab me. And I threw one of the big heavy jackets over top of him. Boom, pounding him to the ground, pounding him to the ground. Mini 14 started shooting all around, just like you would see in the movies. Craziest thing you ever see, but I'm still pounding him on the ground. Cops and sergeants coming over there, and they're beating me off him with sticks, the billy clubs. Again, just like you would see in the movies. At this time, I get handcuffed, he gets handcuffed, and we go to the hole, and the hole is a security housing unit. And once you're in the security housing unit, you have to see a lieutenant, you have to see a sergeant to make sure that you're gang affiliated or not gang affiliated. They're going to see where they can house you, where you're safe in the security security housing unit. Before you're in there, you're in like a phone booth, dog cage, right? And you're handcuffed behind your hands, and you can't even stretch your feet out. You're squatting down, and that's the only room you got. And you're in there for 4, 5, 6 hours till they figure it out where they're going to sell. They might have to move this guy out and put you in here. And finally, after about 8 hours, I got into a cell. And if you guys were in prison before, you already know that the first thing you have to do is search the cell, because if there's any contraband in that cell prior to that, it's yours. I don't care if it's a razor blade, a pencil that's sharpened, a knife that's in there. The next day when them officers come in to search, and there's something in there, even if it wasn't yours, you're responsible for it. At that time, I was in there. I didn't even have a roll of toilet paper, didn't even have a mattress yet, but way, way, way up in the top of this metal locker, there was a New Testament. God has a sense of humor, because that was the only thing I had to read. Not knowing what that was, although prayers of a mother who's been praying for me for years, telling me about Jesus, telling me about the Bible, I finally had an opportunity to open it up and read the New Testament. That night, I got on my knees and asked God to come in my life. That was August 20th, 1997. It took me about another 6 years before I got out of that prison cell. But I knew that there was a psychic change happening. I didn't see the burning bush or like Moses, but I did know that something was going to happen. That was the first time in my whole life that I felt that I had an opportunity to get out of prison. Because there was a time when I didn't think I was going to get out of prison. I was hanging around with the gang members that I hung around with, the things that I'd done inside. That was my destiny. But Jesus had other plans for me. That night, like I said, I got on my knees and asked him to come in my life, and my life started to change from that exact moment. 6 years later, actually, that little Mexican kid that that I got in the altercation with, we ended up being good friends. I respected him because he respected me, because I stood up for mine, he stood up for his. Bygones were bygones, and we moved on with life. 6 years later, I paroled from a Corcoran shoe program because I was in the hole all the way up to that time. The day that I paroled, I got on my knees in front of Corcoran State Prison, on my knees, and kissed the concrete in front of me and vowed that I would never go back to prison again. I've never went back to prison again. I didn't know what I was going to do, but I know that God had me because I was already growing in my faith. At that exact moment, my parole officer wanted me to go to a halfway house to get back into society. Now, you got to know that I was already 22 years in a prison cell by the time when I paroled. I didn't even know how to open up a car door. I would go in the supermarket and go in the groceries, in the cereal aisle, and there was so many choices, and stay in there for 45 minutes and then get frustrated and kicking the cereal down the aisle because I could not figure out what kind of cereal I want. Today I know what kind of cereal I want, but at them years later, no. At that time I didn't. I got enough. I respect the heck out of that parole officer because on hindsight, I seen that was the best thing that that could do. I went to that halfway house. Actually, it was a 12-step recovery program. At that exact moment, that recovery program took me to a meeting down at the beach. At that time, I was able to meet a man that I call my sponsor today. That man's taught me so much. The faith that I have today, my life is in perfect order. But there's so many things from that moment when I got on my knees in that prison cell to the moment that my life is right now. Blessings and blessings and blessings continue to happen because I stay sober. I work a program. I give back. I put Christ first in my life. I do a bridge recovery meeting on Tuesday nights. You know, I can go on and on with the material stuff that God's given me over the life, but the peace of mind, the serenity that I have in my life right now, the gift to be able to share my testimony with others and be able to give that away is priceless. God is good. God restored a broken soul. If God can restore my broken soul, He can restore your broken soul. And you know what? With the opportunities that we have today and the men that I have in my life, that sponsor walked me through many of things. I didn't even have a job. I didn't know how to get a job. But he told me this. He said, Billy, I want you to do this. I want you to open up the phone book and I want you to go like this. I opened up the phone book and went like that, and it said ERC, roofing and waterproofing. He says, I want you to call that guy up. I want you to tell him that you'll give him a dime's work for a nickel's pay. You'll be there 15 minutes early, you'll stay 15 minutes late. When I called that guy up and I told him that, he thought I was crazy. He said, you know what, call him again. So I called him again a couple days later. After about the third time, he said, man, you're persistent. Come in, I'll give me an interview. He said, you know what? Go clean up my bathroom in the warehouse. It was like a gas station bathroom. Man, that's easy work for me because I've been a porter over the years in prison. I can clean that up. I can do my little hustle. I can sweep the tiers. I can do all kinds of stuff. I went and made that thing sparkling. He hired me for $12 an hour. I worked for that guy for 3 years, and I sponged every single thing that I could while going to church on a daily basis. The day that I got out of prison, my mom took me to Capitol Beach Church, where I have not left. The day that she passed away, I said, Mom, what do you want to be remembered for? She said, 7th row, first seat, right here. Every Sunday morning, I saved that seat for her, and it's been 9 years since my mom passed. Every single Sunday, if I'm not in town, you can count on me being there. Every Tuesday night, you can count on me being at the bridge. Going back to that guy giving me a job, I worked for him for 3 years. After the 3 years, I couldn't grow no more in his company. I started my own company. I still have that company today, waterproofing, Serenity Decking Company, waterproofing company. I still have that, but that wasn't enough. After a few 5-6 years of working in there, I heard a calling, right? I was walking down the beach one day, and I was doing a walk down there, and I went to San Diego for the weekend by myself, and I just asked to walk the beaches, and I asked God, what do you have for me? I didn't hear it audible, but I knew there was something there, and he said, you know what, I want you to work in recovery. I went back to school. I'm a board registered interventionist. I went back and got my credentials. I'm a therapist. I work with drug and alcohol kids. I do interventions. That's the purpose that I have right now. God's blessed me over and over with the things that I have in my life. The men that I have in my life, I got a group of men that every single day that I text on a daily basis, we share scripture together. We share our spirit and strength and hope. If someone's hurting, we're there to pray for them. How does that work? God, I just bought a $1 million house 3 months ago from a broken convict, drug addict, alcoholic who didn't have 2 nickels to rub together by the time I paroled, to owning my own house in San Clemente, California. How does that happen? I tell you how it happens. It happens because God Almighty. God blessed me beyond my wildest dreams. He continues to bless me because I'm a service. I put Him first. The blessings continue to happen that way. My name is Billy. I'm an alcoholic, and thank you guys for listening to my story.